Hello there, I'm Archbishop Coyne, and this is Coffee with the Archbishop. And joining me today is Mr. Josh Kay, who is our Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministries for the Archdiocese of Hartford. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a
How
pleasure.
do you take your coffee?
Well, I usually do iced, but if it is hot, it's black. So this is a good start for my morning.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of times when I get here, they don't have cream and stuff like that, so I bring my own. It's just my little struggles. That
There
I have
you
on this
go.
side.
I love that.
So you're a recent hire, maybe like a couple of 6 months ago?
Yeah.
And what did you do before that?
So I've been working in youth ministry for probably the better part of a decade. I grew up in upstate New York, and that's where I really got started. It started in youth ministry, and so I've worked at the parish level in 3 different dioceses over the last 10 years. And it's been a blessing and a calling, really, I've always felt. And it's just been a great honor to now be able to see kind of the ways in which I felt supported as a youth minister, but now doing that in reverse to the ministry leaders in our archdiocese.
Yeah, because that's one of the main things that people say when you like have a poll and you say, what do you think the church needs to do? They'll say no, 1 or 2, bring the young people back to the church. People really worry about that.
Yeah.
And so, that's why we hired you.
Yeah.
And that's the work that you're trying to do. But right now, mainly you're just getting out and getting to know people and meet people.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in the first year was really kind of establishing kind of what the vision is for youth ministry. Like how do we support our parishes that have youth ministers? How do we, work with priests and DREs and people to kind of just share kind of like, hey, we want to support our young people wherever they're at, whatever state in life they're in, what questions they have, how can we support them and make them feel that, their voice is important in the church right now.
But how do you get them there? If they're not coming through the doors, how do you get? How do we get them into the church so you can, or even just into a place where you can have this conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing is just to understand and walk with them. We've talked about a lot this year, the idea of accompaniment. So it's just being intentional about inviting, being intentional about listening to their story, not problem solving for them, but just like making them feel known, making them feel like their identity of a son or a daughter of Christ is really just gently woven into the everyday things that they do, whether that's sports, extracurriculars, and just showing up and being present for them, and if the invitation, has to be through their mediums, like social media, TikTok, Instagram, whatever that is, like we'll go there too. It's just being creative in those ways.
I found that, especially, it was a little bit harder with the high school kids, but trying to make connections with them when they were in confirmation that continued in universities. I found that offering some kind of social justice action gets them in the door to start,
Yeah.
So when I had confirmation, they had to do work.
Right.
But then I would invite them to continue to do like a project we're doing. Would you be involved in our project for Haiti? Would you be involved for raising money for this food pantry downtown Boston, things like that.
Yeah.
So they would stay after confirmation because they were connected to that. I'd be email out and I'd say, we're having a meeting, we're putting together this for this.
Right.
And they'd come. And then they'd still have a connection with me and I'd talk to them. And then we'd always begin with prayer. We'd end with prayer and I'd try and encourage them to be connected with each other. And then I started seeing them at Mass more.
Yeah.
Because I was also encouraging them to come to Mass.
Right.
So...
Yeah, I think, and this saying wasn't cliche, it might be now, but the idea of ministry is relational, it's not transactional. And so, we make the connections at a faith formation class or a confirmation class. We make the connection when they come to do a service project or they're involved in some sort of event at the parish. But the relational piece is that follow-up that you mentioned, like, hey, we're going to do this as well. Maybe there's a social event that we want you to come to, and really engaging them more so on both ends of the spectrum, the social aspect, the evangelization aspect, and just welcoming them into conversation and dialogue, I think is important.
What do you think about... most of our seminarians that we're getting now, they got a lot of their exposure to Catholicism and a lot of exposure to considering things like that through the internet, through some of your big YouTube people like Father Mike Schmitz and others like that. Are there any kind of, like, for our viewers, are there any kind of YouTubers out there that you would say, hey, parents, you might want to give this to your daughter or son because they're on it.
Yeah, oh
or
yeah.
something like that. They should say this person's this is a good resource. This is something you might want to go to.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I think there's two ways to look at it. One, I think, is the Hollow app. If you're not familiar with the Hollow app, it's a resource of podcasts, prayers, things like that. They have a lot of resources for young people in
Hallow,
Hallow,
H-A-L,
yeah.
not Hollow.
Yeah, Hallow. But that's a good one. I think Father Mike Schmitz is still relevant to these kids today. I mean, he still speaks at youth conferences. He still speaks on college campuses. I think the bite-sized pieces of information that you can share that are relatable to young people, I think are so crucial. And I think he knows how to hit that home run, and he does it well. Yeah.
What about any women out there on the YouTube? Any nuns or women that are on the internet that you might also recommend? Because I think young women need to see a mirror for themselves.
Yeah, there's a podcast called Abiding Together.
Okay.
Sister Miriam James Heidland of Sisters of Our Lady of the Trinity, Solt. She does good work about her story is fascinating. She grew up playing volleyball, wanted to be a sports broadcaster, wanted to go to work at ESPN, and
Like Father Anthony.
And she had a conversion, and she had some things going on in her life. So she really understands suffering. She understands perseverance. She understands what a model of a good mother and a good spouse looks like, both as a religious sister, but also what young women are dealing with. And so her and a couple of co-hosts kind of run that podcast. It's called Abiding Together, and I think that's a really good one that young women can pick up on.
Okay. I think also, too, you have to develop in the family. So if parents are concerned about my kids don't want to go to Mass anymore, well, are you praying at home?
Yeah.
Are you talking about your faith to your children?
Yeah.
Are you yourselves consistent in going to Mass?
Right.
So that if they're seeing good role modeling from you. Now, we're getting a little bit late in this kind of 10-minute conversation, but one of the things you're putting together is a youth council, which
yeah.
So thank you for that, because now I have to do another meetings I have to go to.
Well, this one might be a little bit different because
mind.
you might get the voice of young people. But no, one of the biggest things in our office that we talked about was that anything work that we do, we want to make sure we are getting the voice of those we're serving. And so this youth council, what they're designed to do, it's kind of a three-pronged approach: fellowship, discipleship, and leadership. We want to equip them as leaders of the young church to be able to share their voice, to have an outlet to give their thoughts to you, but also to give their thoughts on how they relate to what's going on in the church. The fellowship piece is, we want to make sure that in the Archdiocese, a young person who is going through high school is passionate about their faith, but only maybe sees 5 or 6 other people, maybe a small group in their parish. Well, there's plenty more around the Archdiocese, so bring them together to grow in community. And then we want to make intentional disciples. I think that's the biggest piece of come together with the youth council, be formed in a spirituality, that allows you to then go back to your parish, work with your pastor, work with the young people there, and just have a sense of how you can grow youth ministry in your parish. So they're being commissioned in January to be a part of the council for the year. They'll be on retreat, and then they'll work with a specific topic that engage young people, whether that's AI, whether that's mental health. They'll kind of do some research, get together, and then at the end of the school year, they'll present their findings to you. And just to have an open dialogue with, this is what young people see, this is what young people need, this is how they can be supported. And so we're really looking forward to this first year of it. And then, as it grows, kind of, getting deeper into ways that their voice can be heard, not only in their parish, but kind of on an archdiocese level.
And so, you have a lot of good help around you. You also have Father Dan Hakanios, who's the high school campus spiritual director. And he takes care of about 3 Catholic high schools, saying Mass there and being with the kids. He's just doing a great job. And that's a great resource. Is there anything you want to say or add to this conversation before we say goodbye?
No, I'm just super excited that the Archdiocese is prioritizing the young people in the church. I mean, Pope Leo had a digital encounter at a youth conference for teenagers a couple of weeks ago, and he said something that isn't new, because Saint Pope John Paul II said it as well. But young people are not the future of the church; they're right now. Yes, they are part of the future, but their voices right now. And I think having this position here to be able to support those ministers who are working with the people right now, I think is important. And I think that leads us in a great direction moving forward.
All right, Josh. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This is Archbishop Christopher Coyne, and you are watching Coffee with the Archbishop. God bless.